Hello, my name is Colin and welcome to the Virtual DM. In today's video, we are going to take a look at how you can use the Fantasy Grounds dice packs to customize your damage and healing dice rolls during your game. It adds some fantastic excitement and impact to those dice rolls, and we'll start off by coming up here and clicking on the dice button, which is going to open our dice window. So a couple of things to take a look at here before we get right into it. First one is our dice color. Now this is relevant to our default dice. So we can left click on body here, scroll around this little color palette, change the color of our dice. If we left click into the text window, we are able to change the text color on those dice and make some interesting color dice. Next to that, we have our desktop dice. That allows us to remove dice from the standard setup. So if for some reason I decided I didn't want the D100 dice in my list down here below, I could just click on that and you can see that has disappeared from my dice setup. To put it back, I just click on it again, and there we have our full dice setup. Just below that, we have the ability to increase up to 120% or decrease down to 80% the size of these dice. And they do roll at that size. So if we go all the ways up here to 120, if you have trouble seeing what the dice are rolling on your particular screen, that might make that a little easier for you. And we'll just drop that back down to 100 for now. So now we're going to take a look at our dice skin. So everyone by default gets the default dice as well as the elemental basic sets. All these additional sets that you see here in the dice skin section are ones that I have purchased from the Fantasy Grounds store. So we have Ring of Elements, Magical Trail, Force Field, lots of different sets, all the ways down to one of my favorite, which are the blood dice, which make some very interesting looks when you are rolling damage. So we're going to come down to the bottom here. We do have a toggle panel lock. That is the same as this little lock here, so we're able to unlock our dice and move those around if we'd like. And finally, the button that we want to get into here is our custom dice roll. So I'm going to click on that, and that is going to open our custom dice rolls window. So I'm just going to expand this out here so we can see this a little better. Move these around. All right. So what we are able to do here is we are able to tell Fantasy Grounds which set of dice to use based on the damage type. So in this particular case, if the damage type has acid, this dice is going to roll. If it's cold, this bluish one will roll. If it's fire, this yellowish one, and so on. All down through our element types, our material types, adamantine, cold iron, and silver. So if those weapons are being used, you can tell it what dice color to use, what type of dice to use. We have our physical damages, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and also our special property of magic. And then finally down here we have our healing dice, regular healing and temporary hit points. So to show how this works, I am going to set up our physical types here using our blood dice that are at the bottom of my list here. So I am going to take my blood splatter and I am going to drop that into piercing. I'm going to take the blood impact, drop that into bludgeoning, and take the claw and drop that into slashing. So what I have told Fantasy Grounds to do is anytime the damage type is bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, to use these particular dice for that damage. Now, one other thing we can do here is tell Fantasy Grounds what to do if that damage is critical damage. So if I click on the plus sign, I'm given the ability to say what the additional critical dice will look like if I want them to look different. So in this particular case, I'm going to take my Liquid Impact, the black die, the black D20, and just drop that in. So now in this particular case, when I roll critical damage for bludgeoning, my original dice will be this red, and my additional dice, my critical dice, will be this black color, which makes a really nice effect. So let's take a look at how this works here. I'm just going to close my dice window, and I have just set up some damage types here so we can take a look at how this works. So right off the bat, we've got our bludgeoning, which we set up with this red dice here. And you can see that gives us a pattern of blood splatter. Now, I talked about critical for this here. So to see how that would work for critical, I'm going to hold down the Shift key to tell Fantasy Grounds that this is critical damage. Left click and drag my damage, and when I throw that, you'll see the second dice is the black one that I determined. So there we got the red dice, and my critical dice, which was the second D6, rolled as the black. So that adds a really neat effect. For piercing, we have our sort of blood splattering around. And finally, for slashing, we have that clawed slashing look, which is quite interesting. Coming down to our element damages, which we had here at the top. So for acid, we get this sort of greenish dice that rolls for damage. For cold, we get that bluish dice that rolls. And finally, for fire, we get that sort of orange dice that rolls, telling us or helping us identify what type of damage is being rolled. Now, when we have a situation where there are two damage types at once, as in here we have slashing and poison that is occurring, the dice will represent themselves by that color. So here I see for my slashing, I have my red blood dice, and for my poison, I have this sort of bubbling green dice to show poison. Makes quite an effect. Very neat. Coming down to our healing. For our standard healing, if we go to the bottom of our list here, we can see we sort of had this yellow die. So if I throw some healing there, and then if we've got some temporary hit points, I get this sort of bluish green dice. So all based on what we have told Fantasy Grounds to use for that type of damage, that damage type. So very neat way to set up your dice so that it's representing the type of damage that is being done. A bit of a visual reference, adds some excitement and impact to your dice rolls. If we take a look at the Fantasy Grounds wiki here, we have a page, All Things Dice, which has all kinds of information on using dice in the Fantasy Grounds Unity virtual tabletop. Fantastic article if you want to learn anything about the dice. We also have this dice pack gallery that is talking about all the current dice packs that are available, what you can expect for those. And if we go here to the Fantasy Grounds store, we can see all the various dice packs that are currently available, and those can all be purchased as a bundle as well. So I have picked up all of these so far. I know from some recent updates, it looks like there are more dice packs on their way here shortly. So that'll be quite interesting to see. So there you have it. That's how you can customize your dice rolls for damage and healing based on the damage type or the healing type. Hopefully you found some value in today's video. If so, let me know in the comments, and feel free to let me know if there's a video that you would like to see. If you enjoyed this video, really like it if you could follow the channel, give us a like for the video. Those subscriptions and those likes really help us let YouTube know that people are enjoying the content, so I can get it out to more people. Thanks very much for watching, and happy gaming.